spoke about this for a minute or two in after Shacharis one of the mornings, and I promised at the time, bli neder, that I would go into this Indian a little bit more, and that is the following yesod. There is a well-known, well-quoted, oft-quoted Rashba in Shailin and Shuvah Rashba Siman Yud Ches. And there he discusses the klalim of when we make a bracha on a mitzvah and when we don't make a bracha on a mitzvah. And he tells us one of the klalim that he says, the Rashba, he quotes from another one of the Rishonim, that whenever you have a bracha, which is tali b'das acherim, whenever you have a mitzvah, which is tali b'das acherim, for instance, the mitzvah of tzedakah, obvious case that you can't give tzedakah, somebody has to get tzedakah, so it takes a taker and a giver and a taker. So in such a case, you never make a bracha on the mitzvah. There's a number of examples. Hashavas Aveda. You can't do Hashavas Aveda unless somebody is Makabel the Aveda. You might do Hashavas Aveda, and the guy might say, I don't want that anymore. It was, so then you weren't Makayim Hashavas Aveda. So whenever you have a mitzvah which is totally in a das acherim, so you don't make a bracha on that mitzvah. And the klal could be tested, and the achreinim speak about how to test that klal. Does it work all the time? You can think about it as to, which mitzvahs we make a bracha on, which mitzvahs we don't make a bracha on. But that's the klal of the Rashba and Shailin Shuvas Chelik Aleph Siman Yud Ches. And the Pri Megadim in Tafrei Sadik Vav, it says that Lefi the Rashba we understand, which seems to be pashut, why we don't make a bracha on Mishleach Manos and on Matanas Avyonim. Because the same yesod, you can't give Mishleach Manos unless somebody else is makabel it, and you can't give Matanas Avyonim unless somebody else is makabel it. So the Pri Megadim says, Halachah L'maisa, that when it comes to Mishleach Manos, let's focus on Mishleach Manos, that's the subject this morning, that when it comes to Mishleach Manos, you don't make a bracha on Mishleach Manos. And L'dayek, in the morning when we read the Megillah, so I think the Minig Yisrael is that the Gabbai announces that everyone should have kavanah for the shechianu for all the mitzvahs hayoim. But it's only for the shechianu. Like, in other words, yes, that the shechianu is going to go on the mitzvah Mishleach Manos, on the mitzvah Matanas Avyonim, on the mitzvah of Sudas Purim. But Leimatzinu, that the Gabbai should announce that when we say, so you should make that bracha and have kavanah, make it by Mikra Megillah, and have kavanah also on Mishleach Manos, Matanas Avyonim, or the Sudas Mitzvah. Why? Because there was no takana of a bracha on that. Shechianu could be doing Mishleach Manos. It's a mitzvah chadasha. Safek, I'm not sure exactly what the big shaila is, what the big safek is. But over there, you have kavanah in the morning. Shechianu, the bracha on a new mitzvah. But when it comes to the bracha of Shasa Nisim Lavoseinu, which is the bracha of Purim and the bracha of Nes, you don't have to have kavanah for that bracha. So that's the Pri Megadim Alpi the Rashba. So we don't make a bracha on Mishleach Manos because it's totally b'das acherim.
Rav Haber,
yes.
For those of us in Yerushalayim, the Shechianu is said in the Megillah reading on Friday morning. What about the mitzvahs that we're Mekayim on Sunday?
So you don't make a Shechianu, you lose it. You can take a new fruit and make a Shechianu if you want, but the halachah is you don't make a Shechianu if you could be Yotze anyway without making a bracha, so you do it. So I asked a kasha on this Pri Megadim, which is a good kasha, that the kasha is from the Ramah. The Ramah in Tafrei Sadik Vav, Sif Hey, I'm sorry. I take it back. In Tafrei Sadik Hey, Sif Dalad, So here the Shulchan Aruch says Chayiv l'shleach l'chaver shtei manos basar shnei minim acholim, which we spoke about a couple of times here. Shenamar mishleach manos ishareyu shtei manos liishachad. So the Ramah comments here, and he says, Yesh l'shleach manos bayom v'loy balayla, that the correct time to send shalach manos is bayom v'loy balayla, which, by the way, is the question of the week. Everybody keeps asking me if they can just do shalach manos at night because Friday is such a busy day, and the answer is no. Yesh l'shleach manos bayom v'loy balayla. And then the Ramah says, what's nogea l'didan, v'im sholeach manos l're'ehu, v'hu eno roitze l'kablam, oy moicholoi yotza. The Ramah says beforish that if I send you shalach manos and you say, no, get out of here with your shalach manos. No, I really can't take shalach manos from you. Or amoichol, I don't want your shalach manos. Take your shalach manos home. So I went to give him shalach manos, and Hitaka wasn't makabel. He really wasn't makabel. Not he doesn't want to makabel. He actually wasn't makabel. So the Ramah says before that afal pikein, you're yoytz of the mitzvah. So the question is, how could the Pri Megadim come along and apply the Rashba to Halachah? That's why we don't make a bracha on Mishlech Manos, because you need a noisein and a makabel, when the fact is the Ramah says you don't need a makabel at all. So it's a kash on the Pri Megadim. It's good kash on the Pri Megadim. In other words, the Pri Megadim, maybe you could say that Alpistimas Divrei HaShulchan Aruch, the Mechaber, that the person has to be makabel. I don't know if that's true or not, but the Ramah says, and by the way, the Ramah doesn't really bring a makor for this, except the Mishmeres says that Apri Chadash Choylek al Zeh.
But maybe it's a matter of lechatchila and b'diavad.
Okay, so the Ramah says you're yotze, and the Pri Chadash, the Mishmeres says, is choylek, and he says you're not yotze. So you should really, what the Mishmeres means here is that you want to be machmir lechatchila, you should really try somebody else. Just if you want to make sure you're makayim the mitzvah. And then he says v'cheina chasam sofer b'simen kuf tzadik vav metameya al zeh. He doesn't understand how you could be yotze shalach manos. So it could be, you could say a simple thing with the Pri Megadim, that he was holding with the Pri Megadim, with the Pri Chadash rather, and not with the Ramah. But l'didan, halacha l'maisa, at least b'diavad, you're yotze. The lashon of yotze means even b'diavad, you're yotze, if the person's not makabel the shalach manos. Which, by the way, just before I get into what I want to say here, it means to say that if somebody's giving you shalach manos, Stam, and he's yotze the mitzvah with you, so you should be makabel that shalach manos. What does it mean to be makabel that shalach manos? Not just take it into your hand and look at it. Let's say you put it aside, or let's say you immediately take it and repurpose it for a different shalach manos, which people tend to do, or you put it with your Pesach food or something like that. So it could be that you're not makabel the shalach manos. In other words, like it's a big chesed you could do, that there should be a noisein and a makabel. The lechatchila, you should be makabel according to the Pri Chadash and according to the Chasam Sofer, as opposed to, put it aside or it's not meaningful to me. I know that the brisker Rav, like when somebody brought him shalach manos, so he opened the bag and he took out everything and he looked at it. And he put this aside, that aside, but then things that he didn't want b'chlal, like he gave it back to the person. So it was like to him, it was like that's the way you're makayim the mitzvah of mishleach manos, by actually knowing a mice of Kabbalah. So the brisker thing is,
if a person doesn't accept it like that, Rebbe, then it's already missing in the Hashlamas mitzvah. Could be you're not even yotze the mitzvah because you weren't makabel it the way. The way Rebbe's saying it now, it sounds like that's the way to do it. It's a lechatchila.
Except for the Ramah says you're yotze anyways. But yeah, lechatchila, you have to actually be makabel. There's a little bit of a teaching in midos also. Let's say you get a lot of shalach manos, I have to tell you, on a normal year, not Michael, but a normal year, I get a lot of shalach manas. But I want you to know that each one of them is be'emes very chashuv to me, and I take it and I take a look at it, and I'm excited about it. And I really wanted a can of baked beans and things like that. But and I'm a kabul of shalach manas, not even because so much of this halacha, because I be'emes appreciate it like you would get any gift. Like if somebody brings you a gold watch for your birthday, you say, put it on the side, I'll get you later, or give it to somebody else as a gift right away. Like that's not like that's the whole mishleach manas is
the etzem of the mitzvah to be mar b'shalom. So what Rebbe's doing is the absolute.
But
the shlach manas is the actual sending of it, the actual giving of it, whether it's accepted or not. That's the ikka of the mitzvah to try. If they don't accept it, that's their problem.
The mitzvah is to be mar b'shalom, like Rebbe said last time.
But you're trying to be mar b'shalom. But
so we're going to talk about it. But you're trying, could be trying is not the mitzvah. The mitzvah of a shiluach could be the definition of a shiluach is that there's a noisin and a makabel. But you're right, because at least b'diavad you're right. That why would you be yotzei? You're yotzei l'chayra because listen, I sent you shalach manas. I tried. I did the best I can, and you don't want it. You don't want it.
Could the Pri Megadim svara be that you don't know if it's going to be mar b'shalom, therefore it's a suffix bracha?
Oh, all true. No, not the Pri Megadim, the Rashba. Why do you have to go to the Pri Megadim?
Well, his understanding of the Rashba, yeah.
Right. In other words, what the Rashba seems to be saying is that if the other person would not be makabel the shalach manas either properly or not at all, pushes it away lagamri. So then what seems to be in the Rashba is that you're being mevarach a bracha levatala. So therefore, let's take the Rashba's case of tzedakah, pashat tzedakah. I see an ani, I take $1 out of my pocket, I give him the $1, and he says, I want your $1. So, but I already made a bracha. No. So, I'm choshesh for a bracha levatala. That seems to be what the Rashba is saying.
We mentioned earlier that if somebody wants to save time, someone gives them at night, that doesn't work because it's a mitzvah of the day. What if someone who wants to they're not only giving the minimum, they're planning on giving to 30 people. So they give some of it at night, or is that insulting because, hey, you're not being kind of mitzvah of me, so.
Okay. I dafka, there's a few shalach manas that I send out to people, and I bedafka, make sure that I don't send it on Purim, and I don't want it to get there on Purim because I want it to be noticed. So for instance, let's say for business reasons, I send a gift package. So the pshat is that, to people do business with. So, but I'm not looking to be out to the mitzvah mashalach manas. I'm just taking Purim baskets, because it's a nice time, 'tis the season. So that's what I do. But let me just go a little bit further with this, because I don't want to be mafalpal until we see some yisoidus here, some makaris. But the Mishmeres Chaim, which was a sefer the Rishiva, he speaks about this. But I want to just share something with you for a minute that doesn't say there. But Shamati from the Rishiva, and he said that he thinks that the pshat in the Rashba is like completely misunderstood. In other words, we look at the Rashba to mean that I want to give tzedakah. Let's talk about the Rashba in what he's talking about. We understand the Rashba to mean that if I give tzedakah, I make a bracha. So now if I make a bracha and I give the guy the money and he doesn't take the money, I'm stuck. I can't be mafsik for the rest of my life, right? Like I'm stuck in this bracha levatala. So Rav Scheinberg, Zecher Tzadik Levracha, said he doesn't think that's what the Rashba means altogether. What he thinks the Rashba means is that there are mitzvahs that you do by yourself, and there are two people mitzvahs, or multiple people mitzvahs. So the only time Chazal were masakin a bracha on a mitzvah when it's your mitzvah, like shaking a lulav or putting on tefillin, or all the many brachas that we make every day on mitzvahs. However, when the oifen kiyum ha-mitzvah is that it requires a noising and a makabel, for instance, or for whatever reason, another person, like I can make a bracha and blow the shofar. I don't need anybody to hear the shofar. I'm blowing the shofar. But if it requires a makabel, like a shomeya, let's say mikra megillah, let's say it would require a shomeya. So the haraya that it's not your mitzvah, you're not in his lashon, you're not a bailam on the mitzvah b'chal. It's not your mitzvah. So on such a case, comes the Rashba and he says that you're not makayim you don't make a bracha on such a mitzvah. So it's a different understanding than I would say probably most of the achronim have in this Rashba, that it's not that you'll be stuck lemafreya with the bracha levatala. What the Rashba is explaining is that when you only make a bracha on a type of a mitzvah, which is your mitzvah, with you bailos on that mitzvah. This is my mitzvah. I'm going to do a mitzvah now, and I do it. Not because of a chash bracha levatala, because there's no takana of a bracha altogether on that. And kach shamati.
If we do a mila on an adult yid, is there a bracha?
Yeah. The mitzvah there.
What about Birchat Kohanim?
Birchas Kohanim and nobody's makabel the bracha, you're saying?
No, like the Kohanim are, they need the Nasan and Makabel, and the Kohanim still say a bracha.
Right. Who said you need a makabel?
So by the mila,
the only din is you need a minyan to do birchas.
The mila, who makes the bracha?
You need a minyan, levarach Am Yisrael. If you have a minyan, so let's say everybody's saying, I'm not makabel the bracha, I'm not makabel the bracha. You still
have the shots. You still have the shots at a minimum, even if there's only 10 Kohanim in the whole shul.
No, you don't need a shots either. You need 10 people.
10. If
there's 10, there's Ashras Hashchina, and there's a mitzvah levarach Am Yisrael. You don't want to take my bracha, don't take my bracha. Who said that somebody has to take the bracha? That's your problem. I have to give a bracha to 10 people. That's a din of a kind. Okay, let me go a little bit further, but that's kach shamati, and I just want to say it because it's a huge chiddush in the Rashba, and it's kedai to know, like forgetting about Mishlech Manas and the Pri Megadim for a minute, just kedai to understand that chiddush. However,
would Birchas Kohanim be different though, Rabbi, because it's not actually the Kohanim who give the bracha. So Hashem says that Tzavarachlu v'ani avarchem.
Well said. Very good. Very good. That's a reason. I mean, look, la halacha birchas kohanim is different. That's a fact. You're saying a good svara because I'm not the nice thing. I'm not the nice thing. Like Hashem is being mevarachas. We have an opportunity here with birchas kohanim in Eretz Yisrael that Hashem gives us a bracha. You're right. That's a good svar. The Scheinberg, however, in the Mishmeres Chaim, which I have here somewhere. He doesn't say what I just said, even though I heard that from him. But he doesn't ask the kasha either. He doesn't ask the kasha on the Pri Megadim. He asks the kasha differently. He says, I'm going to read it to you. Hevi Arashba b'Shimon Simon Yud Ches, Shuvas HaRav Rabbi Yosef and Palot, Shashal LaHarayvid, Mipnei Ma Ein Mevarchen Al Kama Mitzvahs Kagoin Matanas Avyonim Alvo Tzedakah V'Anoka Ukiyotze Behem. This is the Rashba that we're talking about. The Heshiv and the Rashba answered, Mishum de'ein ha-mitzvah tliya kula b'yad ha'oiseh. She'ef sheshla yisratza b'am chaver. Okay, that's the Rashba that we just learned together. So this is his nusach of the kasha, nothing to do with the Pri Megadim, but the other way, taking it from the opposite approach. Ulafizeh kasha, lama loy mevarchem al mishlach manas lefi masha pasuk harama dashalech manas chaver v'hueina roitzel kablam yatzah comes out afilu im lo yikablam yikayim mitzvah lefi klal hanal. So he's not. The Pri Megadim is saying that this Rashba is why we don't make a bracha. He's saying, she was asking Akasha a little bit differently, and he's saying that according to the Ramah, this Rashba would be no reason not to make a bracha. It's the opposite way around. Maybe you're thinking the Rashba says you shouldn't make a bracha because Tali B'das Acherim, but this is not Tali B'das Acherim. So therefore, why don't we make a bracha on Shalach Manos? So he's asking he's in the same sugya, but he's asking the question completely different. Like, is there some other? Let me put it in my words. Although this is my words, by the way, I wrote this. But is there some other klal in brachas that we need to know, which would tell us not to make a bracha on Shalach Manos because the Rashba don't work? That's the way he's asking the kasha. I'm asking the kasha that according to the Pri Megadim says that this is why we don't make a bracha. The Rashba doesn't work. It's not true, which is fair to say that I know anything better than the Pri Megadim, but it could be the Pri Megadim was asking according to the Pri Chadash, not according to the Ramah. So everybody clear until now what we're talking about?
If you could reiterate those last two sentences, it would help.
The last two sentences are this, that like what the Rosh Yeshiva is asking. He's saying that why don't we make a bracha on Shalach Manos? Maybe you'll say that's because the Rashba says that it needs a noisin and a makabel. That's not a good teretz because you don't need a makabel by Shalach Manos. So what I complicated a little bit at the beginning, he's saying very simple question. Don't tell me this is a case of noisin and makabel because you don't need a makabel for Shalach Manos. That means that I can give you Shalach Manos. According to the Ramah, we don't even know l'chatchila b'diavad. I could give you Shalach Manos, you can push it away, and I'm yotzei the mitzvah. So why can't I make a bracha? What's to stop me from making a bracha? So again, the way I heard from the Rosh Yeshiva, it's a different thing because I'm not a bailam on the mitzvah. But even that's fair because follow me here for a minute. Because if I don't need you to be makabel, then I am a bailam on the mitzvah. Even according to the way I heard, that I am a bailam on the mitzvah. If I'm a bailam on the mitzvah, so make a bracha for heaven's sakes. You know, if I can share with you just in parentheses that somebody, there's a well-known guy who sent out, there's circulating a WhatsApp from him of how to give Shalach Manos. Yoel Goldberg, maybe, or something like that. So how to give Shalach Manos. Very, very moving. And he says you should make a list of all the people that you want to give Shalach Manos to, all your friends you want to give Shalach Manos to, and then send the Shalach Manos to somebody else. That's what he says. So, what he's trying to bring out is like this: here you have an opportunity to make friends to make enemies into friends. So if you want to make friends out of enemies, don't go with your list of go-to people. So that's a very beautiful Musar idea, but it's not B'chlal what Shalach Manos is all about. Shalach Manos is not about making friends out of enemies. That's not what it is. Mishlach Manos is dafka. What the Megillah says is Mishlach Manos ish l'reyehu. You give it to your friends. So, like, who says that it's outreach? Maybe it's inreach. Who says, like, in other words, like this fellow who wrote that, although it's like very musardik, but it's not halachic because it could be dafka. Like if you guys here on the screen are my best friends, you're the ones I should send Shalach Manos to be machazik the relationship. In other words, if you have a friend, you invite them for dinner, invites you for dinner. There's a different mitzvah of hachnasas orchim, which might be for people that don't have a place to eat. That's not what this mitzvah is. There's a mitzvah of tzedakah for people who don't have money. That's not what this mitzvah is. This mitzvah is a mitzvah mishlech manas ish l'reyehu to be machazik our friendships. So I'm just saying parenthetically, I don't think you should forward that email because I don't think it's correct. It's even Yitachem. This would be a big kiddush to say. That could be that if you send only to people who you don't like, maybe you're not even yotzei mishlech manas ish l'reyehu. I mean, you could sneak one in there, but like it could be if you're doing the ikar mitzvah mishlech manas with somebody who you normally would not want to have anything to do with. You think you're doing a good thing, and you are doing a good thing, but it could be you're not makayim the mitzvah mishlech manas because it has a different kavanah. That's I just want to make that point. Anyways, to take it further, in the Mishmeres Chaim here, he answers. Right, the kasha is clear. His answer is, Venira Loimar, listen carefully. To Mishleach Manos Enoy Hashiluach Greda Harba Shalom Ben Ish L'Re'eu. So Rabbi Yaakov pointed this out right away. And that is that we have to examine, as we did last week, like what really is the mitzvah of Mishleach Manos. So the mitzvah of Mishleach Manos is Laharba Shalom Ben Ish L'Re'eu. Laharba Shalom Ben Ish L'Re'eu. We spoke about it. That's Mefurish in the Pasuk in Megillah. I'm just mute. Excuse me. Get a little quieter here in the room. So comes the Ramah, as the Rishiva explained. The Ramah says that if the person's not makabel, you're still yoitza. Yeah? So he said, Tama Ramah, that the reason for the Ramah that you're still yoitza is the afim lo yikablem. Let's say I send somebody who I've been having problems with, right? A neighbor I've been arguing with, and I send him shalach manos, and he says, take your shalach manos. I don't want your shalach manos. The reason that you're yoitza is the ein ha-mitzvah, this is his language, masha sherleach l'reyehu manos, ela mashamar b'shalom b'mashamar lo sheroitza lo seis manos. V'afim einoi mekablem mikol makam here b'shalom b'mashu shalach lo. You hear the svara, a very human svara, that I send shalach manos to you, and we've been having a hard time. You don't want to accept the shalach manos, the seder. Comes the Ramah and says you're yotze because sof kol sof, the gesture, and somebody said this, I think Pinchas said this, the gesture of, or Philip, the gesture of sending the shalach manos and you receiving the shalach manos and you not being makabel the shalach manos is also mar b'shalom b'reyus. See, I'll give you a mashal. Let's say, God forbid, you have a fight with your wife. So, okay, you feel bad, you give her a gift. And she says, it's 10 o'clock. Keep your gift. That's what you do? Give me a gift? Keep your gift. Okay, so did you do a good thing or did you do a bad thing? Did you make it better or did you make it worse? I'm not asking you to answer this question because nobody knows the answer. Okay, so what does it mean?
It means that you're going to antagonize him more.
Okay, so we're not. You mean that's a piyus? Sending a gift is a piyus?
No, it's not a piyus. If it's shas kaso, it's the opposite of a piyus.
Right. No, I'm saying, but the gift would be the piyus in this case. Usually, piyus is dibur. So you could say al tefayis on the b'shas kaisa means don't try to calm somebody down when they're bekas. This is a different thing. It's a form of an apology, and the partner is not makabel this gift. So it could be that at least from here you could see it's like a chiddush that even if the other person is not makabel, it doesn't mean that the gesture was lost. I would say even more. Even if the person is angry about it and resents it, but it could be that on the long term, like, look, made a gesture, gave me a gift. I have to admit, there's some kind of I wasn't makabel the gift. Maybe that's a chasarn in me. I wasn't makabel the gift. Maybe it's not enough, but he gave a gift. At least it's something. So I'm just saying it as a mushal because it's something we could all picture. But let's say, I presume everybody's been there at one point or another. But let's say, according to this, the halacha is what he's saying is that the reason why the Ramah says then I'm Yoitze Shalach Manas, even if the person is not Makabel it, because even if he's not Makabel it, I still gave it, and he still saw it, and he still took it. And if he's not Makabel it, that's also a partnership of two. Let's make a deal like this. I give you a gift, and you're not Makabel. So we're still Mar B'Shalom V'Reis, which is a fascinating insight, if it's true, into gift giving. See, a lot of people don't give gifts because they're afraid the other person is going to throw it away, push it away. Like they've been traumatized at some point. So don't give gifts. So what we're saying here is that even if the other is not makabel, it reminds me of, like, I think it was, I think Elie Wiesel said, if you love God or if you hate God, you still have a relationship with God. If you're indifferent completely, you have no relationship at all. So it could be that you don't only need a noisin and a makabel, you need a noisin ve'ein a makabel. That's what the Rama is saying. Makol makim yotza. Obviously, the best thing is your makabel, but you need a noisin and another person. Now, it still holds true with benogeya the Rashba, HaRav. Okay, so it comes out, if you're not makabel, so I'm still makayim the mitzvah, says the Rama. So then why don't I make a bracha? Let's focus here. If I'm makayim the mitzvah, whether you're makabel the shalach manas or you're not makabel shalach manas, so machta bracha. What's the problem? So Rashiva says here, the reason we don't make a shalach manas, in other words, is there's some other principle here which is telling us not to make a bracha on shalach manas, because the principle of the Rashba is not working very well.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It sounds to me as if the Rosh Hashiva is making a chiluk between the maaseh itself and the kavanah behind the maaseh.
Keep going.
Do we make a bracha on a kavanah?
Oh, Ephraim, you see, I always say, look, this, like Ephraim Bluth should have been one of the Gedolim. He says as follows.
That was a very nice thing to say. You caught me off guard with that one.
Well, it was kind of a left-handed compliment, but
I watched. My brother gave me the greatest compliment many years ago. He said to me, "You could have been a Talmud Chacham."
Okay, you still could be a Talmud Chacham. Yep. So, anyways, so the Rashiva brings a different principle, Lagamri, the Ephraim principle. The Beis Yosef and Simon Tuf Lamed Beis in Chaim, which that's, by the way, Hilchos Chametz. So the Beis Yosef says, quote, Lo shayach levarech al bitol chametz, the hamitzvah belev. Meaning, you can make a bracha al bir chametz when you're burning the chametz, or even when you're doing a maisa of looking for the chametz. But you can't make a bracha on bittul, because bittul is belev, yeah? So, like if you say, kol chamir v'chamir di kibrishusi, right? Yadinan, delo yadinan. So what you're doing is, whatever the lumdus is there, it's complicated sugya, we'll get to it maybe next month. But the complicated sugya of bittul chametz is that works something like hefker. And Ilora says, I don't want this chametz. I don't want it to be in my rishus. I'm relinquishing all ownership from it. So the Beis Yosef says, so make a bracha where you say kol chamira v'chamia. Make a bracha. Says the Beis Yosef in Tuf Lamed Beis that you can't make a bracha on such a thing, because you can't make a bracha on a davar shebelev. So even though you're doing an amira of kol chamira v'chamia, but the ikar bittul chametz is belev, yes? So the Rashiva says that im kain, there's a different principle, not the Rashba, which tells us that you can't make a bracha on mishleach manas. The principle is that if the whole kavan of shalach manas is laharbois shalom v'reyus, and that's really what we're doing over here. So the actual sipur yavesh of me giving and you taking is just sideways. It's all life and zayt. The main thing is I'm being mar b'shalom v'reyus. Just Chazal told me how to do it by giving a gift of shtei manos lish echad. So it comes out that whenever that comes out that the Ikar HaMitzvah is Dvarim Shebelev. And besides for the cloud, we're not going with the cloud Dvarim Shebelev Einam Dvarim. That's not what we're talking about here. Don't get mixed up, because you are doing something when you do Bittul Chametz. What we're saying is that Dvarim Shebelev is not Mechayev a bracha. Just a cloud in Chazal. We can be mafalpul and why that is, but Chazal said don't make a bracha on Dvarim Shebelev. And he says this is Dvarim Shebelev.
Rabbi Haber, if somebody would call up a friend and say, I'm coming by Purim Day, I'm going to bring you Mishloach Manos, and then he says, don't bother this guy, he never even made a Mishloach Manos for him. So he's saying there's a Havamina is Yotze then?
No Havamina that you're Yotze, because it's nigh in the mitzvahs, there has to be Shtei Manos L'Shachad. Like, Danny, you could ask the question even better. You could say, forget Shalach Manos, let me just call this guy, like, and schmooze with him, and that'll make him much more happier than a cookie and a bottle of wine. So let me just schmooze with him. Okay, nice. You've done a nice thing of lahar b'shalom v'reyus, but you haven't done the takanas chazal of sending the bracha, of sending the mishleach manos. The chiddush of the Ramah is okay, but if I sent it and he received it, but then he sent it back, he didn't receive it. But you have to have the fartrunka d'maisa. So, Danny, exactly what you're trying to say. I want to show you something. That's exactly, there's a sefer called Birchas Mordechai. So the Birchas Mordechai, written by Rav Baruch Ezrachi Shalita, he wrote a sefer on the Rav Scheinberg sefer Mishmeres Chaim. The Birchas Mordechai al Mishmeres Chaim. And he's mefalpel in what the Rishiva said. So it came to this one. He didn't like it at all. Danny, I think this is also, what you're questioning. He said, what do you, Bishloima bittul chametz. So, taka no maisa. I'm just doing something. Chazal, we're masakin, I should do bittul chametz, and that's a davar shebelev. And a davar shebelev, you don't make a bracha. That's what the Beis Yosef says. However, you can't compare this to bittul chametz. Why? Sure, pashut sheyesh tzura mesuyemes lemaisa hamitzvah v'hi mishleach manos uvad shezen nikra mitzvah sheyesh b'maisa. There's a way to do shalach manos, like Danny says. Let's say I never even send the shalach manos. Am I doing the mitzvah? Of course not, because the Chazal gave us a tzura of how to do the mitzvah. Ba'inyan shalahar b'shalom huvad kavana oy matorah avalei gufa chefza shalam mitzvah. So he's arguing with the Rishiva, and he's saying, how could you even compare this to Bittul Chametz? Bittul Chametz, the Gufa mitzvahs believe. Whereas Mishleach Manos, it's a kavana in the mitzvah. Ephraim, you said this also, the kavana of the mitzvah, the matar of the mitzvah. But the mitzvah is a bottle of ketchup and a hamburger. That's the mitzvah. So how can the Rishiva make this comparison? And if it's not a comparison, so Hadra Kushi Laduchta as to why we don't make a bracha. Rabbi Yaakov Pinsky, what would you say to this question? He's not there. Oh, you are here. Meaning, he's asking like this, and I just want to make one distinction. He's saying that, okay, you do a mitzvah, you put on tefillin, you do a mitzvah of shiluach hakan, a very emotional mitzvah, shiluach hakan. And then you look into the Sefer HaChinuch, and the Chinuch tells you, like, why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mitzvah, the mitzvah of shiluach hakan, or tefillin, or sukkah, or whatever, say midiras aray. But that's the Reb Shimon was Darish time of the Krah. We're not Darish time of the Krah. The reason we're doing the mitzvah is not, and this is very important, by the way. The reason we're doing a mitzvah is because the Rosh Hashanah said to do the mitzvah. That there's a Sefer HaChinuch, or there's a Mar Nevuchim, or there's even a Gemara that explains what the pshat in the mitzvah is. That's not why we're doing the mitzvah. In fact, you're not supposed to do the mitzvah with that. So it's very interesting. Like when I one of my daughters pointed this out to me yesterday, that Halachah has to be. She was saying Halachah has to be progressive, more progressive, she said, because she was talking about agunais. But she said, v'haraya, like the Torah says, that comes Sugyos, leave your house and go outside where it's cold, and put up some breitalach and put up some schach and live in a diras arai, same diras keva, go into the diras arai and struggle through it, and that's what you're supposed to do on Sugyos. And she said to me, and what did Abba do in Muncie? You sat in your dining room and you pushed a button, and all the two windows went up from the ceiling, and you sat at your regular dining room table with the heat on, and everything was very good. And you had a meter, a special kind of a thing there, that if it started to rain, it closed automatically. So she said that, so why is that okay? So she said the reason it's okay is because Halachah is dynamic, and we don't go basar taima. We're not derish taima dekra. So I'm just saying, so I'm not sure if that's correct or not. I have to think about it. But or another example is like we do things which are not in the spirit of the halacha. I don't want to be controversial here, but I'm like, married women are supposed to cover their hair. Okay, so if you cover your hair with a thing that looks nicer than your hair, so l'chayra, it's not in the spirit of the halacha. But why is it mutter? I mean, it doesn't seem to be in the spirit of the halacha, because halacha, it's a beged, and you put a beged on your. Doesn't say in halacha how nice the beged has to be or how ugly the beged has to be. It's a beged. And
that was Rav Ovadia. Rav Ovadia actually gave that psak, that he said that it's not a good idea to have these expensive wigs. You shouldn't have it.
Right.
That was halacha.
I think it was against any wigs.
That's right.
But I'm not knowing wigs, but I'm saying you see a distinction, Taka, between the spirit of the law and the law, and you see that all the gedolim were matter to wigs. If somebody wants to be machmer and say it's not in the spirit of the law, so go ahead and do so. My wife doesn't wear a wig, but
do you make a bracha on a mitzvah that you do al dei shaliach?
Like what?
Shalach manas, according to the mandamar, that you need the shaliach.
I'm saying, like, how do we know a cloud that you don't? I mean,
I'm asking. I don't.
No, I don't know any such cloud.
In all those scenarios in the Gemara about being Makayish and Isha by Aydei Shaliach, so who makes the bracha?
The Baal. Assuming that's a good case. I'm not sure what the bracha is on there, or if it's even a mitzvah to do Kiddushin. The Machlek is the Rambam and the Ramban, but the Baal makes the mitzvah. When he makes a Shliach Leilacha, he makes the mitzvah. Kadesh Liisha Zais, and he makes the bracha right there on the spot. And we're not b'chal choshish for a bracha levatala. So I just want to make this chiluk here. We're running out of time here. That you can't really compare time into mitzvah or the spirit of the mitzvah with what the Rosh Hashiva is saying here, because here, like you can't, like, it's not like, do this mitzvah and really we should not be involved in what the reason for the mitzvah is. Okay, Hadimili, when you're looking to say for a chinuch and you're saying a mitzvah over here, the Megillah says mefurish that let's, the Chazal said, the Anshe Knesset Agdola said, let's do the mitzvah of Mishleach Manos Ish Kanois says Kol Yehudim first of all, and then let's do Mishleach Manos Ish L'Re'eu. Let's get everyone together, and getting everyone together is going to be the Chovos Hayoim. That's how we're going to have a Hatzalah on Purim and all future Purim by everyone getting together. It's not like it's a darshan in time of the Kra. That is the mitzvah. The mitzvah is Lahar B'Shalom. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Rav Ezrachi is correct in his dimyan. It really is a dimyan to Bittul Chametz, I think, because by Bittul Chametz the Iker is believe. We say in Amira. Okay, you say in Amira, but we all know that the Iker mitzvah is Haram Shebelev, because it says right in the Torah, right, that you have to do Tashmisa. So same thing over here. If it says right in the Torah that it's supposed to be Lahar B'Shalom B'Reus, that's not called darshaning time of the Kra. That's telling you what the Kavanas mitzvah is. If you have time, so give me one more minute. I just want to say, there's a lot more to say, but I just want to say one thing. And if you don't have time, you're welcome to leave this the Zoom space. What's the halacha if you send a shalach manos anonymously? Just a couple of quick dinim to test our understanding and knowledge of everything we're learning for a couple of weeks. If you send shalach manos anonymously, like I just want to send shalach manos, I want to make him feel good. I don't want to have any credit for it. So the Ksav Sofer speaks it out, but it's a davar pashut that you're not yotz any mitzvah with a matan b'seiser. It seems to be a davar pashut. So it's very important that that's just one halacha based on everything that we've said. The whole idea is to make shalom v'reyos. What are you making shalom? I'm really, really good friends with this anonymous guy. You've accomplished nothing. But what happens the other way around? I'm just trying, like, let's say I send you shalach manos and you're not home b'chlal. So you're not there to be makabel. So, and I see it after Purim. I actually see the shalach manos. I find it at my door after Purim. So the Aruch HaShulchan says very clearly that, look, I don't have to be home to get the shalach manos. You don't have to put it in my hands. V'haraya, the Binyan Siyan says that it's even better al yedei shaliach, and it's okay with a delivery company, UPS, FedEx, anybody you want can send the shalach manos. And as long as I see it on Purim day, so you have a matzav of a nice and a makabel, even Lefi Dvarenu, if you're not makabel on it, I don't want a shalach manos. But sof that relationship happened on Purim. So that's the mitzvah on Purim. So if I'm only going to know about the shalach manos the day after Purim, so the Aruch HaShulchan, I believe, says clearly that you're not yotze the mitzvah. It seems to me, I just want to say a chiddush.
Can you send a WhatsApp, a picture of it?
That's what I just want to say, a simple thing. That let's say you go on a tiyul on Purim, Friday, and you come back, and it's even maybe after Shkia, let's say, just say case, or Sunday, and you come back and you find a bunch of shalach manos. So it could be, Lefi Aruch HaShulchan, it's no difference to you in a sense, but the other guy wasn't yotze shalach manos with you. Yes, David? It's not about you. You didn't do anything wrong. But the other guy, if he was soymach on you to be yotze shalach manos, he wasn't being yotze shalach manos. However, here's good eitzah, exactly what you just said. That let's say I'm not going to be home on Erev Shabbos for whatever reason. I'm not doing mitzvahs. I'm not coming back till after Shkia, but I can have a shaliach come, take all the shalach manos from the door, bring it into the house, WhatsApp it, even phone call. You see, Aruch HaShulchan didn't have this mitzvah of phone calls. He didn't even have WhatsApp. So I mean, it's hard to understand how he lived, Rav of a city. But if I'm modia to the guy who was mekabelit, and he looks at the picture, he says, "Oh wow, very nice. David sent me shalach manos, Pinchas sent me shalach manos, Yitzchak sent me shalach manos." Right? It's very nice. So l'chayra at that point, we're both yotze. Why? Because you don't have to be makabel. There's no didn't have to make a kinyan in it. Although, as I said before, I just want to say the chumrah would be like the Brisker Rav did, and the Brisker Rav. Actually, and this is the correct thing to do if you can do it, that the Brisker Rav actually picked up the shalach manos. He was makabel the shalach manos. This year it's very hard because of all the harchakas that we're making in the seger. So I'm just speaking like we talk about karbanos. I'm talking about shalach manos. The best thing to do is to take the shalach manos and to look at it and say, "Oh, I can use this for the Suda, and I've always wanted one of these, and I love this kind of chocolate, etc." Oh, by the way, to send somebody shalach manos something that they can't eat, let's say you can't eat sugar or he's allergic to something and you're sending them only sugar, so you're also not yotze to shalach manos because according to the way we paskin, it has to be something which can be used at the Suda. So it's another important halacha.
Rebbe, do you have to be marbis simcha on the day of Purim, or you're marbis simcha even afterwards?
Simcha or shalom?
This whole idea
Simcha or shalom?
Shalom. You're being marbis shalom. And we were talking about the mitzvah, it's in the lev. So if you didn't get the Shalach Manos on Friday and he gets it on Shabbos, were you still Mar B'Shalom?
You're Mar B'Shalom, but you weren't Mar B'Shalom on Purim.
Right.
No,
And there's
so
a chiyuv to be Mar B'Shalom on the day of
on Purim. And I'll tell you why. Because Purim, I'll leave you with this thought. On Purim, the Shemayim is opened up. Purim is Yom Kippurim. And on Yom Kippur also, we're all asking Mechila from each other. And we're Mar B'Shalom. And Yom Kippur also, at the beginning of Yom Kippur, we say, Adas HaMokim, Hinenu Matirim, Yispal Lima Avrayonim. The Shemayim is open up, and the Shemayim, the Rishiva always say, when you push with the crowd. The Shemayim is open up on Yom Kippur, the Shemayim is open up on Purim. So if we could be Mar B'Shalom a little bit on Purim, it's unbelievable. You can change the whole world. You change the whole world in Shemayim. So it's nice to be Mar B'Shalom on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and Thursday. But it's so much better on a Friday when it's dafka hard to do, and it's difficult to do, and it's so much better with a noisein and with a makabel. And I've always thought, and I don't know that anybody in Halachah disagrees with me, but it's not brought down. I always thought that when a person's makayim the mitzvah of shalach manos of ish l're'ehu, you should say a little yehi ratzain, and you can say it in your own words, the yehi ratzain, kishem that two Jews are coming together, and they're doing it the way Chazal said too, shalach manos ish l're'ehu, and I'm being married shalom l're'ehu. So look, Gamkein, Kadosh Baruch Hu, you should become closer to the Bnei Yisrael, and there should be more peace. Avinu Shalom between us and Avinu Shabbat there should be Shalom, and Sim Shalom Toivu Avracha. So I think that's the correct Yehi Ratzin, to think or to feel or to say or to whatever you want, or not to say, just to know that that's the Ruach HaYom, which is Dafka on Yom HaPurim.
Amen.
I leave you, and for those that are interested in Nefesh HaChaim, sure will be at Thursday. And if you have kids, I just want to make this announcement on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. So we're doing a Zoom with the 7th, 8th graders, 9th graders even, in the shul boys. And we're doing a contest in learning Pshat in the Megillah. I ask questions, they give answers, and whoever knows gets prizes. So if you have kids in that age group, send them along to this Zoom link, please.
Okay. Or grandchildren in that age.
Grandchildren also works, yeah.
Rav Haber?
But in English, yeah.
I have two questions. Should the person delivering Shalach Manos, if there's no one home, should that person send a WhatsApp to the Makabel?
That's a very good idea.
And the second.
Very good idea. Very good idea, Sacher. That's really like UPS does. Yeah.
The second is I get a daily Halachah email, and a few days ago it said that one should not say thank you for Shalach Manos, because one doesn't say thank you for a mitzvah. It's kind of the flip side of the whole discussion today. But
so I heard this. I would be over on that Avera. And somebody can...
Okay.
Haber, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Mitzad Makabel, if I go to my friend's house and I want to bring him Mishloach Manot, and he's out because he's delivering his own. Now, certainly, if his wife is home, I can give it to her. But if there's a cotton, and the only person home is a cotton, is there any chashash there?
No.
Because it wouldn't be worse than just leaving it for him, right?
Right. We learned in the Chassam Sofer that even though a cotton is not a good shaliach in every halacha, for Shalach Manos, it's 100% lechatchila, because we learned last week or 2 weeks ago that the ikar is the nifal. The ikar is what comes out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, bracha v'atzlach, everybody have a good day.
Bye.
Okay, bye.